Kiri, and today I'm going to show you how I prepped for Art Fight. First, I started out with my main character, my Sona. I started by getting her body type down and then putting on a bunch of different hair and outfit just to give people options. At least, give them options that I wanted to see. I picked outfits that I felt were more specific to my style and how I liked things. I also added a set of armor and a giant lollipop, which I utterly love. I think it's so cute and so unique. I think for me, the easiest part was probably the line art, because it was just like I had the sketch down. It was right there. So I just traced the sketches, went over with my line art, and, that was easy, except I did delete a lot of the wigs because, I just didn't feel like they suited my character at the start. I did leave one of them in, which I did sadly delete later on. My favorite part of this artwork was probably drawing the robot, because I feel like the personality I brought into the robot later on, I felt just really showed so much of my character and the other side of her, which I really love. The other side of her is much more of a crime-fighting hero, kind of, I think. Yeah. Also, when I was coloring my character, I had a very hard time because I just could not find the right color palette. I know the color palette for, my main drawing, but I wanted to see if I could mess with other ones. So I took colors from the pan flag, which I at first thought it was great. Then I just was doing random colors because I gave up at that point, which still turned out pretty well. You can see up in the corner I said this is hard, which, that's pretty funny. You can see down in the other corner how many days I put into it, which is mostly a lot because I procrastinated this for many days and I only worked on it for probably an hour or two. Sometimes I think 3, but I only worked that much each day, so it dragged on a little longer than I wanted it to, which was completely fine. I still finished it in time for Art Fight, but I really should not procrastinate like that on my art again because it will really mess me up. One of my favorite parts, I think, drawing this artwork was the robot. I had so much fun drawing it. Even though, I really like how it brought out personality, I also love how I picked the colors. It's just so pretty. I love it. Oh my goodness. I also had a hard time shading the lollipop, and at one point I gave up and just looked up a picture of a lollipop and just copy and pasted it, which next time I'm not going to do that because I need to work on that. But now I started moving on to shading, which was my personal hardest part, which I did not like. Except I loved shading the robot. The robot was fun. I loved drawing her eyes. I loved drawing everything about the robot. I know I keep bringing it up, but I loved it. Once I finished shading and coloring the rest of it, I moved on to coloring and shading my main character, which was pretty fast and easy. I've drawn her so many times. I did mess up one thing with her, is I forgot her freckles for part of it, and then I went back. Now I did the background, which I messed up a little bit, and I made the background blue, which I fixed it later, but it was weird. You can also see me trying to figure out what font I wanted my writing to be in, which I did mess up twice. I wrote cat and crime in my thing, so I did crime fighting, and then I said my favorite animal was a cat with a shark and fox, all that kind of stuff. But I wrote call instead of cat, and I wrote kime instead of crime, which I went back and fixed. I started fixing all the other stuff, saying all my favorite things, and then boom, it's done. Now, on to the next one, which was me drawing my Sona more realistic, which was me giving her better hair and making her less chibi. I still kept her really big eyes, and I didn't give her a nose because I was like, she's an alien. She doesn't need a nose. I also didn't give her ears because I was thinking of the little antennae as ears. I also had a lot of fun drawing this one. It was a lot faster, too. This one was probably about 2 or 3 hours. I traced my arm because, I wanted to get the right shape. But, yeah, as I started coloring in, it was pretty fast compared to the other one. I also used a different type of coloring in because I found a new way to do it, which was, I think, using this bucket tool called Ice Cream or something. It's a fill tool that a lot of other artists use, which personally I felt like was a lot of fun to do. The coloring and shading, quite easy because I already know this character so well, and when I draw new characters, it's harder. I picked the color palette out better, and I designed it so it fit better with Art Fight than my other one. So, On to my next one, which she actually was created halfway through me preparing for Art Fight. I was randomly drawing on Magma, and I drew this little tiny shark mermaid thing, and then an idea just popped in my head, and it was like, you need to make her a character right now. So I went and made her a character. I picked a blacktip reef shark for her, which she was really easy to do. I did really like how I drew her hair. I love that hairstyle so much. Even though I wouldn't have it at the moment, I just still utterly love it. The line art was pretty easy because I already knew what I was going to do with the sketch. The sketch went out perfect. I did have a hard time doing, drawing her tail and stuff. It didn't work out exactly how I wanted to at the start, but then I was able to work my way to it. As I was drawing her, I noticed that I drew her slightly different from the chibi version. So later on, I went back and fixed the chibi version up, colored it properly, and all that kind of stuff. As I was coloring it, I picked a completely different color palette than I usually go with, which is more, I usually go with pinks and more reds, but this time I went with more grays, yellows, and then I still added some red in, but it was more of an orange red. I had a lot of fun shading her, because, I totally took a different direction with this character. She is personally one of my favorite characters. I went and fixed the chibi version. I wrote her name down, which her name is Maori. I love her so much. She's so pretty. So yeah, finished her. Now let's move on to my character card, which it's kind of like the thing where you put all your characters onto for Art Fight. A lot of people do it and some don't, so I saw a bunch of videos of people doing it, so I was like, oh, I want to do this too. I don't think I actually talked about Rio very much, or Cat. Again, Rio is my pet cat, which I wanted to add him in. And then Cat is a cat that I made up. He is a really funny character, can't talk at all, but I think I had him at the end of my last video as a muscular cat. He also is in, I think, a few of my shorts. He's one of my favorite characters to draw. He's really funny, and it's just so great. He's also at the end of this video, so if you do get there, you do get to see him, which I'm excited for that. I did have a lot of fun drawing all my characters here, except I did mess up a little bit on Maori, which, it's okay. I did notice that originally I thought there was going to be only 2 teams on Art Fight, but this time they actually had 3, which I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited for this. So, that's going to be awesome. I also filled out the type of people I have. So I have feral, anthro, I have a mech in Kiri's, I have a monster, which technically is mermaid, and then I have alien, and I wrote mermaid again. So, you got that. I don't know if I'm going to do any mass attacks, but it's going to be fun. So, yeah. Here's my character card, and let's move on to the finished artworks. I started out with Kiri, because Kiri. Then we have Maori. I love Maori. Then we have my character card. Comment which one was your favorite, and see you next time. Bye-bye!